Thank you for being patient and sorry about the technical difficulties and the delay today. Sue got talking about something with my coaching group and lost track of time. So welcome everyone to Friday's Growth Intentions. And we're going to catch up right away because today is seriously one of my favorite topics. I say this about all my topics, but this one in particular, I shared two notes in the community from the same author, and let me pull those up on the screen. And what I love about, let me see if I can pronounce his name for God's sakes. Hold on one second. Let me pull this up. And I'll share my screen. Okay, the books are from Austin Kleon. He's a writer, but he also draws some incredible art. And the two book summaries, I shared short form summaries this week. They're a little bit different structure in the summary, but just as good. One of the books is called Steal Like an Artist, and the other one is called Show Your Work. They're all based on this idea that there's no original thought or content or ideas. So stop feeling like you have to constantly create an original thought to post on social media. And I remember learning this concept that it wasn't copying and it wasn't plagiarism to be inspired by someone else's content and write that content in your own words. And I thought this would be a really helpful discussion for us as entrepreneurs, as we're constantly trying to figure out what to post, what to say, what do I do videos on, what do I do events on, because we're comparing ourselves to other people all the time and thinking that we don't have something original to say. So let's open the floor. And what do you think about this?
I loved the topic because it is something that I think about a lot, and I follow, people who are further along that have been doing this for 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. And I get a lot of ideas from them and I learn from them, and they are research documented. So I don't have to do the research because I trust their research process. And I'm sorry, I have a needy dog.
Right.
She's telling me I want to go outside to play in the snow. So I thought it was really nice validation that, right. I thought it was really nice validation of differentiating between, plagiarism, copyright, and when you take bits and pieces from all these different things and you process it with your own thought experience and how you show up, that it does become yours, because it's like originality. I don't do research and development. That's not my thing.
Yeah.
I'm not the researcher. I am the sharer of proven methods and methodology with my information, experience, and expertise. So I thought it was very validating. I liked it.
Yeah, I think so too. And I remember being in a group with Tony Robbins a long time ago, and he called himself a knowledge broker, that anything he shared was not his. It wasn't something he came up with. He was just brokering the knowledge in a format that resonated with certain people. And I thought that was kind of magical too, because it can feel like a lot of pressure to come up with original ideas or thoughts, or some groundbreaking method or whatever. So yeah, totally agree. Go ahead, David.
I'll be right back. I'm going to let my
I think it's
dog out.
interesting. It's a
Come here,
great
Peanut.
topic. And I just looked at the definition: plagiarism, the practice of taking someone else's work or ideas and passing them off as one's own.
Mm,
And so I think there's kind of a fine line there, a gray area sometimes too, because I've read things, oh, what a great, I love that little great, what was the one today about you need to plant more seeds for the future or something like that. And I thought, oh, I should make a Monday Morning Minute on that. But then, oh, that's somebody told me that I was on a breakout room with the other day. And so I think it's a fine line. And I think sometimes you just have to use your judgment. And I've often thought of plagiarism as being word for word when somebody just lifts
yes.
something from
Copying,
somebody else's.
copying and pasting somebody else's stuff.
Yeah, because we all get so many knowledge broker is a good term you mentioned, because you're taking in all this and then you're kind of putting it together and repackaging it in some ways and sending it out. So, but I do think it's kind of a fine line.
Yeah, agreed. I also think that when you get an idea from, that's inspired by a book you're reading or a person that you've talked to, why not mention that person? I know there's been numerous times where I've said, oh, I was talking to so-and-so yesterday and we talked about XYZ and I thought this. So adding your own personal take on it. But that also goes along the lines, the other book that I shared by the same author, called Show Your Work, it is basically all about why you need to publicly share everything you're working on, your process, your method, that there should be nothing you hold back from your process. And that's the beauty of, like, if I get an idea from David and I share, hey, in David's Monday Morning Minute, I got this, and this is what it means for me, and this, maybe you should check it out. That's not copying. That's showing my process. So I think they go together when you're growing yourself and learning for your own business. That's part of it. We're learning from people, obviously.
That's just what I was going to say when you said that's not copying. I completely agree with you. And I did have a chance last night to read some of it and scan, not own it. I couldn't take a quiz on what I read, but it isn't copying. It's learning. It's when you go to a class and there's the expert painter showing you this technique. Well, you're going to use that technique, right? That's the whole point. So that's just learning.
And Lisa, what were you going to say?
Yeah, I think that as you become more confident in your own skills, it's so much easier to say or quote somebody else's things, because you're not feeling less than or threatened that, oh, they're going to want to go talk to that person or read that stuff. Because like, oh, like I'm giving away my sources, like, oh no, they're not going to want to talk to me. So you kind of have that underlying fear that if I say like, oh, this information is from this person, you lose credibility, where it's really just the opposite. You build credibility that you're learning, you're growing, you're taking all this information and synthesizing it and turning it into your own space.
Yeah.
I'd love to, oh, go ahead. No, you go.
No, go ahead, Susan.
I want to add a digital marketing twist to this, because I'm geeky that way. So oftentimes, in the past, my clients would just share an article about something, right, on social or wherever. Here's a way that if you find something from an expert that you align with, and you have a space to share that, let's say a blog that's searchable, then go ahead and take a little nugget from the article, give the attribution, and then write your own information in there. And from a search optimization point of view, so powerful, because let's say that I say something, Brenda Burchard says blah, 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 and then I'm going to give my information. Somebody could be looking up Brenda Burchard and find me, digital marketing.
Yeah.
And then you also have what they call, I'm trying to, something links, where if you're linked to a reputable, backlinks, but also there's another word, which means that you're linking to something really reputable and stronger than yourself, and it comes back.
Yes.
And it's like doing footnotes in a book. Is that what I'm thinking of? Yeah, you just
Yeah,
put it in your source.
It's like digital footnotes. And I think my struggle was that that's part of what I do. Part of what I do is resources of other people. And I didn't know how to own that as a skill, that, I have a filing system in my brain, and I know how to like flip through that and get what you need. And I think that was part of my hesitation for a while, until I learned what Susan just said, by tagging or referencing someone bigger, more well-known than you elevate your own authority, because that's who you're learning from. And that was a great post, by the way, about Brendan. I love him.
Reminds me of when I was into horses, and I would go to clinics. And one of the things, I'm sorry, I have a crew in my kitchen. One of the things that the clinic instructor would introduce herself with her to make her credibility was, has trained with this person, has had this person and gone to, and I'm like, oh yeah, well, she's bringing not only her own experience, but the experience from these fabulous people who I have not been able to connect with on a in-person situation, and I probably never will. So I'll get their information from her too. So it's just, there's no, I understand feeling threatened by bringing another name in. When I want to sell an alpaca, I'm hesitant to put the name of the father of this beautiful alpaca that I want to sell, because I'm afraid that somebody's going to go to that farm and get the father's genes right directly from that farm. But also I can say, look, but I've got the mother's genetics as well, and the mother is outstanding, and it's a whole package. It's not just one
well,
thing.
see, that's about you owning your contribution to that animal, just like we're all trying to own our contribution to what we're doing. It makes so much sense that we might feel less than because we've learned from someone else and we're bringing that knowledge into our business, but it's an opportunity to look at it as a value, not a detractor.
That's right. You're not selling the other person's program instead
Correct.
of you. You're selling you because of what you gained from it all.
Yeah. And there was a program I did years ago, all about being a business owner and, stepping into that. And it was a shorter program, like 12 weeks. The content was very, very basic, very basic. I didn't need it. I had already done most of that. And I thought to myself, wow, this content taken up a notch would be an amazing program. Am I kind of doing that now? Absolutely. I didn't copy her program, but because I participated in that and saw the structure of it and what the result was, I thought, wow, that would be amazing. But at a higher level for entrepreneurs farther along, making more money, doing bigger things. Wow, I could really make this incredible.
I often hear from clients when they're trying to put together, let's say an automated welcome series, and they're trying to put it together, and I'm all about, it's not a sales funnel. It's not, I mean, it is, but it isn't, right? It's all about giving. And they're like, well, if I give it all away, then they'll never have to buy it. They won't have to work with me, but it's not the content, it's the person.
Correct.
And I think as a coach, it's understanding that there's a difference between teaching and coaching. You can teach somebody information. That doesn't mean that they have the capacity to understand how to bring it into their own lives and use it. And that's something that I have felt like I really have noticed the difference in my personal experience on my, like, I'm always willing to give, but I don't give with fear anymore. Like, I don't worry about giving away the farm because they can go read a book. Like, the information is all out there. And
Yeah.
if they do it, they would have already done it by themselves. Most people cannot coach themselves through the type of change that's needed.
Yeah.
And like Suzanne has done too, if I'm remembering, she gives, so she brought the roadmap in to personalize each, to have an individualized roadmap, but I think if I'm remembering it right, you sold it, you presented it as some wonderful general concepts.
Mhm.
And you said, and these, if you think that you can, this would work with you, I can work with you in building your roadmap around this, but a personalized, individualized one.
Yeah.
And there you didn't give away the farm, because you can't do that until you can't do that. The person has to, it's an individualized roadmap.
Well,
Am I
part
making?
of, yeah, it makes sense because when someone signs up to work with me or Judy or David or Susan or Lisa, right? They're part of what they're buying into is the time with you, your insights, your journey, your path. And because you've done what you've done, they want to learn and be with you and be held accountable and, go on that journey with you. Sometimes it's not even what you're selling. Sometimes it's just you.
Mhm. I gotta go check.
All right. The other concept I'd love to talk about is not comparing yourself to others. Brene Brown talks about it in The Gifts of Imperfection. So many people have said along those lines. Stephen King is given as an example in the notes that he's written more than 60 novels and 200 short stories, and he still compares himself to other writers, other artists, and he cannot write a summary of one of his books. He has someone else do it for him, which I thought was fascinating. And when we really look at comparing yourselves to other people, that's where all the self-doubt comes in, the hesitation comes in, I'm not good enough, I'm not good as, and most of the time we don't even know those people. We've never met them. We've never talked to them. We don't know if what they're saying is real, true, or even factual.
I could so relate to that, though, of needing to get somebody else to do the synopsis or the summary, or because particularly if it's something as intensive as a book, like you spend an awful lot of time and
Yeah, you're too close to it, right?
way too close to it. Yeah. And so seeing what somebody else takes away from it is so valuable.
Maybe, yeah, go ahead, David.
It's such a great topic because I think people either compare themselves to other people or they say they don't and they lie about it, because I think everybody does it. And to me, it's one of those things you just have to kind of manage. And I remember somebody told me something once, doing such and such is like trying to eat once and for all. You have to eat 3 times a day and make these 3 decisions and so on and so forth. And you can't just be done with it. And the only thing for me, I do the same thing and I try to manage it. The best thing that I can tell anybody that, especially coaching clients or on talks I give, is if you can continually manage your self-esteem and get your self-esteem up to a high number. I had a client yesterday and I said 1 to 10, what's your self-esteem? And she said 7.5. So what has to happen for it to go to 8.5? And if you answer that question and to make that happen, then what has to happen to go to 9.5? So when my self-esteem is a 9 or a 10, I don't compare myself to other people. It's fine. And if I do, it's just like you sort of have this armor, this Teflon where it just sort of bounces off. So really, if you can take that energy and direct it into the things and what takes you from 7 to 8 to 9 to 10 or whatever, it's not perfect, but you at least got a shot at not trying to compare yourself to other people, because it's just a fool's game for sure.
Mhm. Go
One
ahead.
of the things that I talk a lot about with my clients is self-esteem versus self-compassion. So that when we're talking about body image, when you walk into a room and you look around and you instantly scan and you compare yourself, you're either, if you're feeling great in your body, all of a sudden your self-esteem is up here. But if you're having a poor body image day, you kind of need to be like scraped off the floor. So I really try to focus more on the self-compassion piece than the self-esteem piece, so that you're not comparing, you're coming within and focusing on your inner self, not judging against somebody else. Because, how often do you say, like, somebody will refer to somebody in a larger body, oh, I'm so worried about her self-esteem. I'm more worried about the language that she's talking to herself about.
Mm.
So there's, do I think you need self-esteem? For sure. But how do you not use that as your go-to, because it brings instant comparison? You're either up or you're down.
Well, is it really an either or situation?
It's like, how do you bring the two together? I don't have that answer. I know that it's something that I talk a lot about, and I don't know that it is black and white. I do know that I really focus more on the self-compassion piece, and that confidence comes with time and recognizing that self-talk when you get into those self-esteem situations.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes so much sense to me, that, the language that we're using with ourselves really affects everything.
Absolutely. And it's a reflection of what those, subconscious beliefs are that you've got, right? I mean, that's one of your clues, is what is your inner dialogue going on? Yeah, I do.
Hmm. I don't know. I like when my inner dialogue is awesome.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
when it's bad, oh, it's bad.
And you would never talk to somebody else like that. I mean, so
No.
why is it okay to say those things to yourself? And why do you think those things are going to help you do anything better? It's counterintuitive. It's not logical, but neither is the subconscious belief.
Right.
So
Right.
It's like, you can't beat yourself into submission. So that clearly doesn't work.
Right.
But
How do you
we are wired so that that's the default. The default is punishment, negative words, or whatever, and it doesn't work to motivate you. How I talk to my dog is much more beneficial. I mean, I compliment her chunk. I tell her she's beautiful. Um, and the sweet voice I use, I wish that was the voice in my head all the time.
probably similar to what you use with your clients, right? I mean,
No,
you
I'm not as nice to them.
yeah, well, pets are special, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm very compassionate to my clients, and what if we thought about things this way, and curious questions, and yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
we laugh in our house because we have a pup who is just, without grandchildren and young children, she's like the epitome of joy. And how many times a day we go over and tell her how amazing she is and how much we love her and all of these things, as you were saying, and we will laugh between the two of us, and all of a sudden, like my partner will come over and he'll like pet my hair. He's like, "Oh, I love you too. And you're so wonderful." And, but it's because it's a joyful joke, but it's really based on our need for that connection. And we give it so freely to a critter. Why do we not give it that freely to humans? Like there's so much baggage that goes on in between, and we're fearless when it comes to talking to our pets.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, I think that ties really nicely into both of these books, because without that self-compassion, we tend to look at other people as being the knowledge source, or the smart one, or the, you know, the authority maybe in our space. So I think that's an interesting tie-in to look at. If we're really feeling good about ourselves, like David said, we're feeling between a 9 and a 10, then how often when you're in that space are you even looking at what anybody else does?
Certainly not in terms of comparison, maybe for additional ideas or inspiration or, collaboration or some other
Yeah.
type of a connection, but not in terms of judging yourself by comparison.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you're on mute, Lisa.
So this is a half-baked thought, as many of mine are. So this is not like well thought out, but I think it is important to, when we're talking with somebody who has like an expert or more knowledge kind of thing, the presenter or something, I think we should still remember that we're still equal to that person and a human perspective, and not be put off in approaching them. Because I think some folks have like idols, they have baseball idols, or they have this idol, things there and people they're in awe of. And naturally what kind of follows that, I think, is that you go underneath that somehow. We're still on equal footing as far as importance of humanity. It's just that in this particular topic, they have a little more stuff to know, but that's all it is.
Yeah.
If they can pass the test and I can pass the test, I just need to get the same information. And they're not, we don't have to put them somewhere. Oh my God, I'm paying $100 for this 25, 30-minute thing with a lunch afterwards. And when I walk up to them, I don't need to say, oh my God, you're so wonderful. Even if I don't say that in my head, just get to where you can just approach everybody on an equal footing. And I think that will start. And some folks, though, they have such a hard time doing that because they feel so low about themselves that the only way they can get on an equal footing is to drag the other person down to where they are somehow. And it usually has to do with talking about people behind their back, undermining the other person. And that doesn't do anything. I've said so many times in some of my posts, diminishing another person's product does not make yours better than theirs.
Correct.
And it's the same thing with ourselves. If we're putting somebody on a pedestal, then that means that we're a couple steps below them. It's not necessary to put anybody on a pedestal.
Yeah.
Even though some people kind of seem to command that, though, in their presence, in their presentation, but I don't think that's intentional. Sometimes insecure people want to have the letters after their name and in front of their names, and they insist on being tagged that way. But that still doesn't mean they're any better than you are.
Right.
When you see that. I'm just going off on a half-baked thought. Sorry.
No, I love it. David, what were you going to say?
Well, I'm just coming back to the word that I used earlier about managing it. I can only obviously speak for myself, but being on the planet 7+ decades now. And I think I saw something on YouTube yesterday that was made me laugh. It's kind of along this line. And it was, I don't know if any of you have seen the new Elvis movie, but the guy that plays Elvis is named Austin Butler. There, does a great job. I saw it the other day. And so it was a YouTube clip with him on Jimmy Fallon on the Tonight Show. And Jimmy Fallon is just going on about, and they show a clip of the movie and how he got the dance moves, and this is phenomenal. And he's a real handsome guy. I guess he's probably mid, late 20s, something like that. And he's just in the middle of the interview. He goes, I just have to stop. I just have to stop right here. I'm on the Jimmy Fallon show. This is incredible. I'm talking to you. And he looks and he starts touching them, and Fallon's laughing and everything. But it's just such a classic example of everybody has their little space. And to me, it's just, and that's why, to Lisa's point, self-compassion, self-esteem, whatever you can do to manage that relationship with yourself, the better it gets. And that's been the case for me. And I think a lot of people, the less that other stuff impacts me.
Mm-hmm.
And I just secured a big talk in Las Vegas yesterday, and I've been working on this one for a month or so, and I know this is embarrassing, but I don't care. But I walked to the bathroom and I looked in the mirror and I went, I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of you for just not giving up on that. And I live by myself. So there's like, who are you talking to over there? It's just me. But it's just that relationship, however, and we're all different. We've got 6 of us here. We all are different, but however you can do it, back to Lisa's comment, self-compassion, self-esteem, self-worth, whatever you want to do it, however you can get that. And I use the 1 to 10 as close to a 10, because when I'm a 10, I'm just bulletproof. Nothing can bother me and stuff. And so, but you're the next day, all of a sudden you're a 7, something happens and you got to build yourself, or you got to do it. But I just find it fascinating, because I've noticed this my entire life for me and the people I've been connected with, that so many people, it's just, I don't know if I think it was Judy that said it. It's, why do we say self to ourselves? We never say to a friend. I used to say this in talks. I'd use the L word. I said, I'm not even going to say this word. If I used to call myself, I'll spell it for you. It was LOSER. And then one day I stopped. Why are you doing this? If you can't have compassion, back to Lisa's word again, for yourself, how in the heck do you think you're ever going to get anywhere? And why do we say that words like LOSER to ourselves? But I would never say, oh, Suzanne, you're such a loser. I would never say that, so it's just, again, I keep coming back to manage. What are the things you can do to keep yourself so connected to the person in the mirror that it seems to really help?
Yeah, agreed. I think one of the takeaways I want to share is about handling criticism. And I think it applies, from self or from others. When you're interacting with a lot of people, as all of us do, you have to keep in mind you can't please everyone. And if someone doesn't like your work, you need to be able to ignore them and refocus on your own process of making your art, making your thing. And if their words make you angry, or if you get triggered by someone else's post, anger is an excellent way to get motivated to be more creative. So if you see someone else's content or post that makes you think, ooh, God, I wish I had said that, or I wish I had created that, it can be your motivation for, challenging better performance in yourself. And I would argue, I kind of agree with his argument that anger strengthens creativity. I think my frustration in the past with my business not being successful or not making the money that I wanted actually forced me into creating better ideas, being more agile in the creation department. But yet I also acknowledge that criticism or fear of rejection can keep you small. And how do we combat that? I think that's when it comes down to a gratitude journal or a win journal, or remembering who you are on a daily basis. I remember a coach friend of mine a long time ago said, you need a WTF, did she call it remembering WTF who you are. And it was literally, she said, create a document for yourself, whether it's digital or on paper, and put all of your huge accomplishments on that piece of paper. And, when you get angry or when you get upset, remember who you are.
I think you
And
also have to have the capacity to be able to understand that emotion and to work through it, because if when you acknowledge it, you also need to go deeper to understand the why. And
Yeah.
when you can understand the why, then you have to figure out, how, like, what's the next? Because often you can get stuck in that anger and that frustration and get stuck. So you have to be able to be, to have resiliency, to be able to take that information, process it, name it, and to be able to generate a new thought on how do you want to show up. And a lot of people can't make that leap because they get stuck in that anger and that fear, and that shuts down the creativity process. So how do you continually work to have an open mindset? And it's something like that I've really, things that I have been very closed about, where I'm like, no, 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 something will shift. And I'm like, oh, like, it's been right there in front of me. Why have I been so resistant against it? And is it the fear of change? Is it the fear that this too won't work? Is it I know that I'm, like, I still believe my thought, but clearly it's not working, so that thought can't be true. How do you create that open-mindedness to understand the process of where that anger is coming from, and how to shift that to an open mind to be able to take that and do something different with it?
Yeah. That becomes the process of learning yourself, then that emotional intelligence piece that is literally, without that, I don't think you can be an entrepreneur and do the things that we're doing. We need to be able to, and we need to be able to help our clients do that as well, to have a thought and then be able to be that conscious observer, observing from a distance, like, Suzanne, I'm noticing that you're angry about XYZ. Why is that? And what is that making you feel? And being able to spend that time with yourself and ask yourself those questions, I think, wow, without that ability, I don't know where I would be, one, as a person, as a parent, as an entrepreneur. So I think that awareness, Susan or Lisa, you just typed, awareness is everything. So how do we become more aware of those thoughts and distance ourselves from them, take a step back and actually look? I think it's just practice.
It's curiosity. My clients will say, well, I didn't really do anything, but I noticed. I'm like, no, that's your win. You noticed, because up until now, you weren't willing to notice. That is the connection.
Yeah.
I wonder when I'm trying to think of situations, just life situations, when I've become angry. I don't usually get angry. I get angry when injustices are being done to animals and sick people. I don't get angry about myself. But if I get fearful that I'm going to, for me, it's not anger. It's like concern that I'm going to be blackballed in the community or something, but because of a comment somebody said. So, and just thinking that is raising a small amount of anxiety in me. So if I stay with that comment that the person made and maybe turn it into compassion for them, what was there about them that made them have to just disregard?
Yeah.
Well, what was going on in their head? What was their life experience? Where is their self-esteem? Where's the to make it okay for them to diminish other people? And then there's the kind of the forgiveness sort of flows out of finding that compassion and the empathy for them that is creating in them the need to run somebody down in the view of others. And do they even realize that's what they're doing? But because some people don't even realize that folks are actually listening to what they say and watching what they do around their life, and that could affect other people's opinions about other people.
Right. Well, I think that's the thing with being on social media, that we have to be a little tougher than the average bird, right? Like, we literally have to have an awareness that we're there for a purpose. We're not there to absorb, negativity, or to be jealous or be angry. We're there to serve the people who are receiving our content, instead of maybe it's that self-awareness piece that we're there for.
And success also breeds creativity. Success breeds self-satisfaction, which eventually we can relax inside ourselves. And then the more relaxed I am, the more creative ideas flow. And I can do like sideways things off my whatever I might be doing. So I'm knitting something and I'm like, oh my gosh, I know this stitch, it's not in the pattern, but I can bring that into this pattern and it'll really look really cool. And that's my thing going into it. That's just a little example.
Let's play with that for a second. When you're relaxed, when you're well rested, in that calm state, how many of us feel more creative and more like 110%? But yet we've tried to force creativity when you have 5 minutes to make a post on social media before you have to be somewhere, and you try to force it. Well, about 3 years ago, I decided no more of that. There's no more forcing anything. If I don't feel it, if I don't want to do it, if I don't like doing it, you have permission not to do it.
Yeah.
Last year, my word was spaciousness. And it was so that I would intentionally have time and space for new ideas to come in, because when it was too crowded, they're just, all you do is just the same stuff, because that's all the time you got to do the stuff, right? Yeah. So I definitely, in addition to the being relaxed, it's just the space to, well, one of the books, what was it? Talked about bored, letting yourself be bored.
Be bored. Yeah.
And I mean, it's kind of connected, don't try to fill it all up and with anything, so that you have the space for new things to come in.
Yeah. So maybe our takeaway from this call should be to schedule some boredom time.
It sounds luxurious.
Like a time without the TV on, without a book in your hand, with maybe a latte or a glass of wine, and just looking outside at nature, or being outside in nature and doing nothing.
It's permission to be still. If you schedule it into your calendar, you do it.
Yeah.
I mean, we schedule everything else. Why are we so fearful of scheduling in nothing? Like,
I don't know.
Your nothing block. You have permission to take, even if it just starts with 5 minutes, because that could seem really uncomfortable. It doesn't have to be an hour. It can be very simplistic, and it doesn't
it can feel like, instead of feeling like, I know I should be doing something right now.
And it doesn't even have to be meditation. It doesn't have to be the thing like, oh, I'm going to find time to meditate. Well, you're finding time to do something.
Yeah.
Find time to just be. And it's
it's interesting. I've had a group of people, clients, in the last 2 or 3 weeks that are they have beliefs that the only way that they are going to be adding value is by the things they do instead of who they are. And so getting those subconscious beliefs to change, to give value to just who you are. Yeah. Give value to being able to give yourself permission to just sit, right? And, but there are things we learn. It's, you know, one of them that I was speaking to specifically, it was like in her childhood, she was only appreciated for the things that she actually did. So it was a very conditional appreciation model in their family.
Mhm.
And so, you know, there are things like that that can, if you can, you know, shift those a little bit. One of them did a newsletter last week based on some beliefs she changed with me earlier. And she was encouraging all of her people to just schedule 5 minutes to just sit on the sofa, right? And it's like, oh, look at you. This is great.
Yeah.
It was so, yeah, it was really cool that she's
Yeah.
like incorporated it and encouraging others. So it was cool.
I love
Yeah.
it. Well, that's what I want to do. I want to wrap up 3 minutes early today. So let's have the takeaway of looking at your calendar this weekend. If you don't have anything on your calendar, amazing. But just put some nothing time on there for yourself. And I want to hear back from you and let me know how that nothing time went. Did you have a glass of wine? Did you have a latte? Did you just sit and look at the trees blowing in the wind? Did you pet your dog? Did you say nice things to you? Like, what did you do in that nothing time, and how did it feel? How's that sound? Good commitment? Good takeaway?
Yeah, easy.